Oh, testing. Okay, so welcome back to the final part of our series of video, right? Obviously, right? You don't see my face because I don't know what's going on. My USB device isn't working too well, right? So you have to trust that it's Liu Chen behind the camera, okay? Oh, now let's not waste too much time because this video I expect it to be quite long because we are going to look at the final parts of the long questions for fiscal and monetary policies. Okay, so let's get started and go back to page 19 of your notes. Okay, page 19 of your notes. Now, let's look at this question. Suppose the government is facing a budget deficit. Okay, let's recall what is a budget deficit. Deficit 嘅意思即係唔夠啊，乜嘢唔夠乜嘢啊。Now we are talking about the government expenditure is larger than government revenue from the taxation. Okay, 好嘛？好啦 some politicians have proposed that the government should raise the income tax rates to reduce a budget deficit. We have to evaluate their proposal. 好啦，呢度啦，佢講 evaluate，記住啊，whenever we talk about evaluate, we need to look at the objectives. The objectives of the policy, right? So now the policy, the objective is to reduce deficit. Therefore, we need to see whether this policy is effective in reducing the deficit or not. 唔係叫你講緊啲咩 ADAS 啊嗰啲啊，唔係啊。OK，你係睇緊究竟佢呢個可唔可以 reduce budget deficit? You're trying to evaluate, to talk, to discuss whether this policy is useful in dealing with budget deficit. OK，好嘛？ Now, obviously, with an increase in tax rate, what happened? Okay, as the tax rate increases, then for the existing taxpayers would pay 好啦，而家咧稅率高咗咧，即係俾多咗稅定俾少咗稅啊？Should pay more tax on average 係咪啊？平均而言啊，on average they would pay more tax. Therefore, tax revenue to government would increase, right? Therefore, this is effective, right? If you only answer this, unfortunately, your whole question you'll get 1 mark. 吓，有咩唔啱啊？ Okay, boys, this is why you need to, when we talk about ADAS, we keep talking about this incentive effect because there is another effect. Remember, let's point out income tax is a direct tax. 即係咩意思啊？ Burden cannot be shifted. 你唔可以啊，你啲 grammar 你自己改翻佢啦，我唔寫啦。OK 係咪 ？Burden cannot be shifted. OK cannot be shifted. Therefore, with an increase in income tax rate, what does that mean? It means that there will be something we call these incentive effects. 嗱，我哋解釋 we need to explain what is this incentive effect. Since this is a short question, right? This incentive effect means that there will be fewer worker, okay, due to lower effective wage. Lower effective wage. Since now you take tax, right? So the after tax income I get is actually lower. Okay, 好啦。When there is fewer worker, what does that mean? There will be fewer taxpayer for income tax. OK，而家少咗啊， 少咗人俾 tax 啊 ，therefore tax revenue to government would drop. Therefore, you see, right, what happens is that actually the effect is uncertain. Okay, effect on tax revenue. So is this a good policy? Okay, not a good policy because the effect is uncertain. Now, if you want to play safe, 你想係呢條攞足一定100% 攞足8分嘅 we can say if that 啦 let's call this 2. If the effect of 2 is larger than 1, then actually tax revenue may decrease overall. Okay, like of course, write it in proper English. Okay, here in this video, I don't want to make this video too long. Okay, so this, please, this question, you must revise again and again. 你不斷溫啊 remember when we talk about direct tax rates, okay, the answer is always not so simple. 永遠都唔容易做㗎 when we talk about direct tax rates, okay, because on one hand, existing taxpayer would pay more on average, but then there will be fewer taxpayer. Okay, there will be fewer taxpayer 會少咗啊，好似要俾稅嘅人俾多咗，但係會少咗 there will be less existing taxpayer to you. Okay, and that so very important question. Now, what about next question? Here, in an attempt to growing fiscal deficit, 又係 fiscal deficit 啦，係咪 has tried to increase tax on one hand and decrease fiscal spending on another hand. 咦，即係咩意思啊 ？Tax increase here, government spending decrease. Okay, but many worry that such a policy would give rise to undesirable side effects. 佢話啦，有機會有啲唔好嘅。We need to explain two possible undesirable side effects, okay, of the above fiscal policy. Okay, 好啦，now boys, you may be thinking undesirable side effects, right? 吓，咁咪憑空吹水咯 ，boys. This is why we need to remember the 4 objectives. 其實啦 in the syllabus you already have 4 free directions， 已經有4個免費嘅 direction 俾你去揀㗎啦。OK， so let's try to dictate。我哋而家試下默翻出嚟啦。OK， do you remember the 4 objectives？ 嗱 ，try to pause the video and write the 4 objectives first before you continue. OK, go. All right, I assume you have paused the video now. Okay, now remember the first objective is to ensure long-term economic growth. Okay, which in our case will be YF, right? Then the second, we are talking about stabilizing price level. Okay, if you remember, then the third one is also stabilizing employment level, which in our case will be our output level. And finally, we'll talk about income, ensuring income equality, okay, or equity. Okay, these 4 objectives. So let's see what would be some undesirable effects in these 4 areas. 睇下邊啲會中啦。Okay, now for example, increase tax on one hand. Okay, increase tax on one hand. 好啦，例如啦，嗱，其實佢而家有冇講咩 tax 啊？ Has it mentioned what kind of tax we are talking about? No. Now, therefore, let's assume increasing let's say indirect tax. Now, if you remember, most indirect tax is actually regressive tax. 好啦 ，now with increase in regressive tax, what would happen? The percentage drop in wealth for poorer people would be larger than the percentage decrease in wealth for rich people. Okay, so what happens? We know that when we talk about objective 4, so objective 4 will become worse, okay? The income gap will become larger. OK， 得唔得？所以有機會寫一個啦，有機會寫一個啦。OK， 係嘛 ？One of them may die. Also, increasing indirect tax, okay, indirect tax maybe also lead to SRAS increasing. Okay, 好啦 ，SRAS increasing, what happens? Price level would increase. Therefore, right, it may lead to let's say inflation. 好啦，嗱 therefore objective 2係嘛？ You see objective 2 may also die because our purchasing power of money may drop, right？ 係咪啊？有機會喎，仲諗唔諗到其他 ？OK， what about employment？ 好啦 ，here it also says that reduce fiscal spending。好啦 ，here decrease 啦。fiscal spending 我叫 G 啦，好嘛 ？Decreasing G, what would happen? Then AD most likely would drop， 係嘛？而家 AD 會跌啦。When AD drops, output level drops. OK, output level drops. What does that mean? OK， 咁即係死咗一個，有機會死咗一個啦。Our policy, our objective 3 may die because fewer workers needed for production. Therefore, employment rates may drop. Unemployment rates may go up. Okay, 好嘛? So, boys, here, 你見到呢條啦。This question didn't state very clearly what kind of tax, what kind of fiscal spending. So here it just says possible, right? Whenever you can think of some possible examples, right? You can already try to match the objectives, right? 係咪？你話唔使自己亂諗㗎，係嘛？ You already have 1, 2, 3 and 4. OK， 阿 Sir， 第一個有冇機會出事啊？有㗎，甚至乎 let's say if the spending on G, let's say for example, the spending on G, let's say, let us assume this one is decreasing G on 啲乜嘢啊？原來啦，佢話 on 啦 research and development， 原來佢啦 cut 咗 research and development 啊。What happens? LRAS would drop. Therefore, it is possible that objective 1 may also die. 係嘛？嗱 again, since the question did not specify which tax, which G to change, right? Now, therefore, it is totally possible to have all these effects. Is there a solid answer? No. Okay, as long as your answer is reasonable, then you can get the 4 marks. But remember to explain 係要解釋啊，得唔得？要解釋 explain。OK， 好嘛？好。Then here, an alternative policy is to finance the fiscal deficit by printing money. 佢咦倒轉啦，如果而家我用 money supply increase 咁咪得咯，係嘛？ By printing money 係嘛？ Since I don't have enough money, let's just print more money, right? 好啦， then briefly discuss one advantage and one disadvantage. Okay, on this alternative policy as opposed to the above fiscal policy, right? 係咪？對比起頭先跌 G 升 T， 咁會有啲咩好處同唔好處啦 ？Okay, so what will be good and what will be bad, right? Now this one, we need to recall a little bit. Now, in order to answer this question, first we need to recall what are the effects of printing money. Okay, 好啦。If we print money, money supply increases, interest rate decreases, then we know AD increases. 好啦 ，AD 升即係咩意思啊 ？Price level may increase and output level may increase, right？好啦 ，so one of the advantage 係咪啊？我哋睇下呢個 increase in output level, right? Just now we mentioned and the above fiscal policy 上面嘅 fiscal policy may lead to a drop in employment rates, right? Versus for our monetary policies of printing money, we see that employment rates may actually go up because of the increase in output level. Okay, so one advantage over the fiscal policy is that actually we can better achieve this one. Okay, better achieve our objective 3. Okay, so let's write that. 好嘛，我哋而家啦寫翻低啦。原來相對之下 objective 3 is better. Okay, when it comes to objective 3. Okay, 好嘛 when it comes to objective 3. Also, you may argue, 有機會啦。Yes, sir. Interest rate 跌咗喎， so there may be more investment incentive 係嘛 ？As opposed to what we talk about here, right? Let's say if this one is an R&D, for example, 係嘛 we have more investment incentive. Therefore, LRAS may also increase because of capacity increase, right? 係嘛 Therefore, over the fiscal policy, maybe we can also encourage long-term investment. Okay, long-term investment, maybe, right? Maybe we can have a long-term investment. Okay, 好嘛？嗱 what about some disadvantages? Okay, for example, 好啦 for example, here, if you remember, we are talking about both for fiscal decrease and tax increase, right? 係嘛 These two 係嘛both G decrease and tax increase, right? 係嘛 These two adding together 嗱，你聽咗先，一陣間我哋先翻轉頭啊。These two most likely would lead to decrease in AD。你係咪阿 Sir？ 你上面唔係話有機會嚇maybe SRAS increase, right? Maybe, right? Maybe 係嘛 Maybe SRAS increase, right? AD would decrease, while this one would also lead to SRAS decrease, right? 好啦 but if we only talk about in long run, 如果我哋而家淨係講 long run 啦 then we don't have to deal with this one, right? In long run, when AD decreases, okay, what happens in long run? It will lead to price level decreasing versus 死啦呢度 for our monetary policy， 你會見到發生咩事啊 ？For this monetary policy, we see that AD increases. So in long run, 我哋唔理 short run 啊 long run price level may increase. 好啦 then you will be quite unhappy. You see that when it comes to price level may not be so good because there will be a drop in purchasing power of money compared to the fiscal policy. Okay, 所以原來個代價啦，印錢 you will lead to more serious inflation in the long run. Okay, 而我哋上面講啦 okay, when this one we talk about, this is totally short run only. This is a short run. Okay, we are talking about short run inflation. While this one, the focus, we are focused on long run. Okay, 好嘛 Suppose you may be thinking, is there any other answers? The answer is yes. The things that are written are not the only answer available for this question. But I just don't want to make this video way too long. That's why I just give you some examples of acceptable answers. Okay, this one, remember, the key point is that in order to answer this question, if you want to have a clear directions, you need to remember the 4 objectives. OK， 好緊要啊 ，so that you have some three directions。你有啲哇哦，你知道呢 direction 點去啦 ？You have some three directions where to go. No need to think about something from the scratch， 唔使憑空想像啦。OK， 得唔得 ？Alright, now let's move on to the next question. Next question. OK, here. The recent decline in gaming industry 嗱呢個 gaming 唔同啊，遲啲我哋會睇嘅。This one is gambling. OK 嗱，in Form 6 we will go through past paper. We will look at this question again. 佢講緊係 gambling 嘅話，result in drop in tax revenue. OK, hence the government consider reducing spending on investment. 哎呀，嗱呢個講得好明啊，嗱 spending on investment. OK。But still keep the cash sharing scheme 派錢啊，澳門啊呢個係 basically give out money. Okay. However, economists suggest that the government should suspend the cash sharing scheme and allocate the sum of money to investment instead. Okay. Now we need to discuss the suggestion of the economists by giving argument for and against it. 即係我哋要啦。So basically, we are comparing. Okay, the gist of this question. Okay, we try to for investment. And also we try to against investment. Hey, of course, this is versus, okay, 記住啊 versus cash scheme. 其實 cash 即係咩意思啊 ？Giving you more disposable income versus this one. Okay. 又係嗰句啦。Of course, if you're really good, you can think about you can think of some dimensions on your own, right? But if we are not that good, right, we can just use the 4 objectives to see which one will be useful for us. For example, investment. I think it is very easy to recall our first objectives is long-run growth, right? Immediately, I think we can tell. 好啦， with investment, we know that our production capacity would increase. What does that mean? It means that LRAS would increase, so it achieves long-term economic growth versus a cash payout scheme. This only gives YD increases. Okay, so C increases. 啲人買多啲嘢咯. So AD increase, but then no effects on YF 係嘛？其實佢完全影響唔到個 long run 㗎。So we know that for investment can ensure there is long-term economic growth, right? While a cash payout scheme cannot ensure long-term economic growth. Now that's why 係咪？你見而家香港都係㗎 ，Hong Kong right？ the legislative council 啦，而家我哋嗰啲嗰個咩立法會啊，成日都叫政府喂你派夠啦，啲錢唔好再派啦。It's good to have money. Obviously, it's good to have money, but for long-term growth, it may not be so useful. OK， 好嘛 ？May not be so useful. 好啦 ，What about against it? What about against it? OK， 好啦 ，Yeah, definitely, right？ 其實題目已經俾咗過嚟㗎啦。They say that 係嘛 ，reduce here， 咦唔係喎，佢講咩？Yes, drop in tax revenue。好啦 ，Now we know the situation。嗱，今次我哋試下唔用啲 objectives 啊。The situation is that we know tax revenue is decreasing, so most likely the government may face 嗱呢個may字嚟㗎，may face OK budget deficit。嗱，now if I do investment, OK， 咦唔係喎。Oh no, I think this point actually doesn't stand. 嗱 不如我寫晒先。If I do investment, I'm further going to have government spending increase, right? Therefore, more deficit. 嗱，我原先想講呢個 but then I found that this doesn't make sense. Why? Because the same it's the same money, right? 你俾 cash 出去又係使政府錢，你使落去 investment 又係使政府錢，so it doesn't make sense, right? Both of them are going to result in more budget deficit if they face up. Okay, so I'm so sorry, this doesn't make sense. 係咪？所以嘅阿 Sir 有時咧都係 on the fly，我唔係對做 marking scheme 嘅。But then right, if you want to get a good result, you also need to identify what kind of answers are possible, what kind of answer is not possible. Okay, now I think this one is not the best. Okay, 好啦， now here, in fact, we can try to twist this around. 呢個可以 ensure 到 long-term growth, right? But then we may try to argue in another sense, right? Investment can increase capacity, right? We know, but how long does it take? Okay, it's going to take time. 係嘛？ It takes time. 係嘛？要時間㗎嘛？ While if I give YD now, okay, AD would increase in a very short time. 因為你俾錢係嘛？ If you give out cash, they will immediately consume some of them. Okay, 好嘛？ So this policy, if we want to go against investment, our argument will be this one. Okay, 係嘛？ The cash scheme can solve economic problem more promptly. OK， 係咪？佢快啲啊 ？OK， 點樣快啲啊 ？By quickly 係嘛 ？By quickly increasing output level。好啦 ，increasing output level 即係咩意思啊 ？It means that employment level increase in a short run, which means that our tax revenue would increase more quickly, okay, than investment. Okay, we are talking about all this in short run. While investment is only useful in long run. Okay, 所以佢時間快啲啊 ，more promptly. Okay, more promptly 快咗啊。OK 係嘛 ？So you see, we can use the same point to look at it from different perspective 係咪？其實我哋倒轉個角度嚟睇啫嘛。You see that can more quickly solve the problem. Okay, again, is this the only answer? No. In fact, I strongly advise that you buy the you buy the past paper, look at the marking scheme on your own, right? Now, here, I don't talk about all the answers just to save time for the video. I don't want this video to be excessively long, okay? I just give you one example of answers. Again, there is no definite right or wrong answer as long as your direction is correct. Okay, now, so let's look at more examples. 好啦，繼續啦。Now this is 2017. Okay, 2017 shows some macroeconomic data of the US. Okay, now here I only give you figure 1. Okay, I only give you figure 1. Okay, now this is GDP growth rate. Okay, we see 6. Then 4 point something, 2 point something. Suddenly, this is -2 in 2009. If you remember what happened during these 2 years, we have the financial tsunami. If you remember, right? 係咪金融海嘯咯？呢2年係嘛？ So identify the phase, okay, of business cycle. This is definitely 唔使問啊，呢個冇得一定冇可能係第啲啊。This is a trough, okay, 谷底 okay, this is a trough of the economy, okay. 好啦，跟住睇下，how may a reduction in interest rate helped the US economy in 2009 without using a diagram? Explain using ADAS. 而家係講緊啦 reduction in interest rates. OK， 我哋睇下啦。Now the GDP growth rate not doing so good. OK， 嗱，勁嘅 GDP 即係咩啊 ？Basically our Y output level. OK， not so good, not doing so good. How a reduction in interest rate can help? 好啦，背書咯，係嘛？ When interest rate decreases, cost of borrowing decreases. So people will borrow more to do consumption, okay, or investment. Therefore, AD would increase. Output level would increase. Okay, output level would increase. Therefore, it's going to help. Okay, it's going to help with the dropping, okay, dropping GDP growth rate, 係嘛？咁咪搞掂咗咯。Okay, so this one just recite from your textbook. OK， 呢個自己背書啦。Now, what about this one? What about this one? This one is actually what the reference I used to set the final exam question. OK， 你見到啦 ，Figure 2 it shows the interest rates and the unemployment rates. 我哋望望啦，我哋寫翻邊條係邊條先，因為印得唔係幾好啊。This is the unemployment rate, while this is the interest rate. 下面嗰條 interest rate， 上面嗰條 unemployment rate。OK， 好啦，嗱記唔記得呢 part 啊 ？This one is what you found in your final exam. Discuss whether the data in Figure 1 and Figure 2 are consistent with your answer in B 係嘛？我哋 B 講咩啊 ？We say that decrease in interest rate would help with the recovery of Y, right？ 係嘛？嗱原來呢條啊 ，Part C you can answer both consistent or inconsistent, but the key point 最重要嘅係 state the period carefully， 你一定要寫得好清楚邊個 period 係 consistent， 邊個 period 係 inconsistent。OK， you need to be very clear。OK， for example, if we say consistent, which period looks like consistent? Actually, after here. Okay, 2012 onwards. Okay, 2010 onwards. You will see that with low interest rates. Okay, with low interest rate, you see unemployment rates is consistently dropping. Okay, so this is consistent with our answer in B. Okay, now you need to write very clearly from 2010 onwards. Okay, 2010 onwards. 好啦，有冇邊啲係 inconsistent 啊？ Yes, there are some inconsistency. If you want to talk about inconsistent, would be 2006 to 2010. What happens in these years? 呢啲年份又發生咩事啊？ You will see that, funny enough, even with drop in interest rate since 2007, you will see that unemployment rates actually keep increasing. OK， 好明顯啦，係咪啊？呢度啦 ，4% to almost 10%, even though interest rate is decreasing. OK， 等等。So both of the answers are OK, but you just need to state very clearly which period you are talking about. Consistent period is this one. Inconsistent period is this one. And then you describe how the trend is inconsistent with the answer in B, because in B, answer in B, we already stated that with interest rate decrease, we know unemployment rate should also decrease as well, right? But then clearly this part, interest rate decrease, but somehow unemployment rate increased. So this is inconsistent. While this one, you see interest rate already super low, we see that unemployment rate start to drop, right? Now boys, a little bit out of syllabus. 咦，點解會咁嘅? In fact, remember what we study in economics, you still need to remember in real world, okay? Obviously, these 2 years are special years, right? Because of the financial tsunami, 係嘛？但係點解冇即時有反應嘅? Basically, allow for 1 year time lag. 因為點解？市場要時間去消化 ，they need to digest the information to adjust. So normally 1 year is a very reasonable time. Very reasonable time to adjust 係咪？喺一個經濟裏面，大概需要1年嘅時間去消化市場嘅資訊，係好正常㗎。This is a very normal. Of course, if they take like 3 or 4 years to digest, then this is not normal. OK， 即係冇用。如果3至4年佢仲未 digest 到，即係冇用。OK，but 1 year is a very normal situation. 有1年要消化係好正常嘅。OK， 好啦，finally。Suggest one policy that will increase the aggregate output in the long run. 係咪佢講明要 long run 啊？ So anything that touches LRAS will be good. For example, maybe we can encourage investment, we can encourage research and development, or we can encourage education, etc. OK， 好嘛 ？Anything 呢個唔使自己睇書啦，好嘛？just take a look at the textbook on your own. OK，not going to waste your time. But again, you see this 你見我呢份揀啲題目全部都有心思㗎，係咪啊 ？This one you need to learn the skills， 係嘛 ？Consistent or inconsistent? Most of the time, actually, there will be period that are consistent and there will be period that are inconsistent. 你係需要好清楚寫明 which period, state the period. OK。Okay, now, then let's move on to the next question. This one is a very funny question, okay? Country Z, develop nuclear weapons and increase the military power, okay? Country Z, 呢個似邊個國家係咪北韓咯 ？North Korea 咯 ？Yes. I think the reference point is North Korea, especially back in 2018. 嗰陣時啱啱講金仔咧，好中意射嘢㗎。Okay, you know Kim Jong-un, he loves shooting. OK， 好中意射嘢嘅，射啲飛彈啊 ，OK missiles，OK， has raised the proportion of government spending on national defense from 10 to 20%， 係咪啊？由10%變20%。All males aged from this are also required to join the military force for 2 years， 全部都有個 conscription 啦，係咪啊？要做5年啦，做2年啦。In response to the increasing military threats from country Z, the United Nations has passed a bill the embargo most of the goods exporting from country Z. OK， 好嘛？好啦 ，analyze the effects of the above situation on country Z's 幾樣嘢咯。嗱 ，this is a long question, right? This is a question before data response question. 當然未有 data response question 啦 ，but this question tries to mimic 係嘛 ？tries to mimic what data response question would look like in later year. Okay, you see 1, 2, and 3. 係咪啊 we need to analyze the effects. Okay, and balance of payment 我哋未學嘅。Let's not talk about balance of payment first, okay? 好嘛？嗱 general living standard, I don't quite like this word, okay? I don't quite like this word because general living standard may mean output level, may have something to do with price level, or in this question, actually, I think they specifically wants to talk about this, okay? The C versus G, okay? They specifically wants to talk about this one, okay? Now it says, right, raise the proportion of government spending on national from 10 to 12, okay? 即係咩意思啊？記住啦 ，boys, in a real world, okay? without without any raise in 我想講咩咧 ？without any raise in 我想講個 pizza size right 係咪 ？without any raise in real GDP 係咪？其實而家多咗 GDP 啦。Then a higher percentage spending on military would necessarily equal to lower percentage spending. Lower percentage spending on, let's say, on affairs related to general living. 有冇例子啊 ？Yes, for example, consumption. 係嘛 ？Therefore, with this in mind, we may be able to say that, right? Consumers may enjoy less consumption from this data, from this given data, they may enjoy less consumption. Therefore, the general living standard may have dropped. 有機會跌咗㗎，有機會跌咗㗎，係嘛 ？And then here, right, all males are to join the military force. Now, this one seems like more likely to deal with this one, aggregate output in short run, right? 係嘛 ？Here, next one. Next one. If people join army, they join 今日做乜成日窒機嘅咧 I don't know what's going on. If they join army, then most likely number of worker will be reduced. 即係咩意思啊 ？SRAS may drop, then Y may drop. 嗱呢條咧this question I don't want to spend too much time because half of the question we still haven't learned. We don't know what is balance of payment yet. Again, I don't want to make this video excessively long, but then you see here, right? These are some examples of answer. 阿 Sir， 如果真係諗唔到啦，係嘛 ？If I really cannot think about how to answer, right? Remember, you have the 4 objectives to help you. But then remember, this question, you are already given the directions. So don't, don't make up your own criteria. 你唔可以自己作啲 criteria 出嚟啊。一定要用呢3個 must use these 3. But again, because there is one that we have not learned, I'm not going to waste too much time here. Now, one final question to conclude this whole series of video, right? Let's look at a whole long question, right? Now, in fact, this one, we have looked at it some time ago, We've looked at it some time ago, If you remember, this is a change in China's individual income tax system, You see the old bracket, Used to be this amount, now this amount. 嗱，其實好易睇嘅啫 ，boys. Very easy to 阿 Sir， 咁究竟個 tax 係貴咗定平咗啊 ？Very easy. Let's make up a number. Let's say Liu Chen used to earn 5,000. Used to earn 5,000. In the past, Liu Chen needs to pay this. 好啦 Liu Chen also needs to pay this because for 4,500, right? Liu Chen also needs to pay this up to 5,000. 原來以前 Liu Chen 最高係要俾到20%. Now under the new system, yes, Liu Chen needs to pay this. Liu Chen needs to pay this, but only up to 5,000. You see, 係咪其實 Liu Chen 俾少咗啊 ？From 20% to 10呢個 average 嚇，唔 唔同啊 not like this, okay, and not so easy to calculate, okay, but this one just intuitively, you see that under the new system, actually the tax rate on average has dropped, 係咪？其實係跌咗㗎 on average，OK， on average。好啦，第一個啦 ，is individual income tax progressive, proportional or regressive？唔好玩啦 ，must be progressive。好啦，點解釋啊 ？As income becomes higher，跟住咩升咗啊？哦 ，tax increase 錯啊，唔係啊，呢個字錯啊，係 average tax rate would increase with if income. This is what we call progressive tax。我要見到 average tax rates 三隻字要見到晒啊，唔係 tax payment 啦。OK， 得唔得 ？So this one progressive tax because we see as income increases, we see that average tax rate would increase. OK， 得唔得？好，嗱 ，suppose there is a deflationary gap。原先啊 ，there is a deflationary gap。咩叫 deflationary gap 啊 ？If you remember, right? Deflationary gap, y smaller than yf, economy underperforming. Okay, with the aid of an ASAD, explain how the above change would affect the deflationary gap in the short run. OK， 好啦，溫書好似好耐冇做過啦，係咪啊 ？OK，now price level。Output level. 好啦 what is a deflationary gap? If you remember, deflationary gap we just mentioned is y smaller than yf. Okay, so here yf. Now this is let's call this y1. Okay, then this one LRAS, this one SRAS, this one AD1 係嘛？原先啊 this one we have a deflationary gap right here 原先啊 now。我哋頭先講咗啦 basically the new system is a decrease in tax rate, okay? 好啦 so we answer this one basically under the new system the average tax rate decrease. What does that mean? It means that on average we'll have more disposable income 係咪？其實多咗 disposable income 咯 okay? More disposable income. What does that mean? It means that AD would increase, so Y would increase, so our deflationary gap will be closed, okay? Will be narrowed, so diagram-wise, we have AD going to AD2 and Y2, let's say equals to YF. 嗱，唔一定中嘅，唔一定等於 YF 嘅。But as long as AD increase, Y increase, then we know the gap would be narrowed. Price level 你自己搞，喂搞埋，冇煩。Okay, like this, like this. OK， 好嘛，嗱，文字唔解釋啦，文字唔解釋啦。OK， 嗱 ，let's look at the final part. To achieve the same effect on the deflationary gap as in part B， 即係要 close 個 gap 佢啦。And economists suggest that the government should lower the required reserve ratio instead of implementing. Now we need to discuss one for and one against. OK， 即係咩意思啊？原來而家啦 ，now for and against。OK， 我哋 for 同 against 乜嘢啊 ？We are talking about RRR versus tax. Okay, RRR versus tax. Okay, now first of all, let us explain what the lowering required reserve ratio would do first. Okay, if you remember, 嗱呢個係兩個都通用嘅。RRR decrease, what does that mean? It will have more credit creation. 其實而家多咗 credit creation 咯，係嘛 ？So money supply increase, interest rate decrease。嗱，我 skip 咗中間嗰啲啦。AD increases. Okay, so it's going to achieve the same result. You see, right? Same result. So what are some of the good points? What are some of the good points of doing this? OK， 嗱，我哋啦有機會啦，我哋話啦，原來啦而家個 tax rate on average has decreased, may lead to decrease in tax revenue. 嗱，未字嚟㗎呢個係 okay, may lead to. Therefore, the Chinese government may face a budget deficit. Okay, the budget deficit may increase. Okay, while with the RRR increase, RR decrease. Okay, no such effects. In fact, you can even argue AD increase, then Y increase. We may even have more tax revenue. So for this policy, okay, the government would have higher tax revenue. Okay, so this is the advantage of decreasing RRR over this taxation. Okay, 好啦 then what about against? What about against? 有咩壞處啊？嗱 let's try to think about it, right? Let's try to think about it. Yes, there is one that I immediately can think of, right? 逢親見到咧，其實 A part 答咗 progressive tax 啊嘛，係嘛 ？Now here, let's talk about objective 4, equality. Okay, 好嘛 ？With the new tax, we see that what happens? Poorer people, the tax rate would drop, while the rich people tax rate doesn't change. 見唔見啊 ？unchanged。咁即係咩意思啊？窮人俾少咗稅，有錢人嘅稅冇變。This one, the equality, okay, the income gap, okay, the income gap would drop. While for the RRR policy, 如果而家啦，我去整呢個 RRR 呢個 policy，OK， what would happen？ 嗱，頭先知道啦 ，AD increase. In fact, there is a price to pay. It's called price level increasing. If you remember, price level increasing, we call this tax in kind. 基本上全世界人，麥當勞 ，OK，Big Mac，$2 more expensive. Okay, this is a regressive tax in kind. Okay, regressive tax in kind. Therefore, the percentage drop for the poor is larger than the percentage drop in the rich. So the gap will be widened. You will see that the gap will be widened. 係咪？而家其實個 gap 會衰咗。Therefore, you can see that against this policy, because this one would lead to price level increasing. Okay, would lead to price level increasing. Therefore, the gap, okay, tax in kind, the gap will be wider versus if we use the taxation. We know that this is progressive tax. The poorer people paying less tax rates, while the rich here doesn't change, unchanged. This one paying less. Therefore, the income gap will be narrower. So this is why we against the RRR policy. Again, are these the only answers available? No, we have more answers available. But again, this video is already 55 minutes long. Okay, now so I highly recommend you buy the past paper to look at the marking scheme in detail to see what kind of answers are possible for this question. Okay, 好嘛? And with that said, our summer series for chapter 22 would come to an end. This is not, however, not the end of the teaching of chapter 22. We go back to school. We definitely will do more revision on that. Okay, now, so depending on time, maybe if I have time, I will also shoot a video for chapter 23. Okay, so until then, I will see you, I don't know, maybe at school, maybe in the next video. All right, see you then. Bye-bye.